Yeah.
Hey, BoTW here, and for today's video, welcome back to another discussion video, where this time I'm going to be discussing something regarding the Nintendo Switch Pro. Now, the thing is that I've had this thought in my mind for at least a couple of days, and this was like a few hours after the announcement that Nintendo will be having a Nintendo Direct E3 presentation this month, since E3 is in like a couple of weeks. And one thing that everyone comes to mind when it comes to the upcoming E3 presentation from Nintendo is mostly Smash Bros. DLC, I guess Mario Kart 9 and all, but most of all is the most anticipated console from recent speculation, the Nintendo Switch Pro. Though, like I said, I've had this in my head for a while, and I do want to discuss with all of you, since this is something I'm not too sure of, and the question I had in mind was that, will the Nintendo Switch Pro ever be revealed or shown at this year's Nintendo of E3 2021, or as Nintendo as a whole this year? This is something I really want to discuss with you all, and keep in mind, before I get started on this whole thing, this is all my opinions and thoughts, and especially how I feel when it comes to the Nintendo Switch Pro. We are all entitled to our own opinions, but I want to know all your opinions of what you think about this. But with all that out of the way, let's just not waste time and let's get straight into it. So, the way I like to describe the Nintendo Switch Pro is that from what I've seen recently, it has been the most highly anticipated and heavily speculated Nintendo consoles that everyone wants from Nintendo themselves, because it brings out a lot of big features such as 4K resolution and I guess some chips from what I've heard, because there's been a lot of reports lately regarding from the Bloomberg report that happened a few months ago, and especially a well-known Nintendo insider, Emily Rogers, who did say that we might get at least a Nintendo Switch Pro reveal at least like a week early before E3 starts, and everyone thinks that Emily Rogers might be right, and I do too as well, but it got me a bit skeptical that it might not happen. Now, the question is that, like I said in the beginning, everyone mostly thinks that when it comes to a Nintendo Direct E3 presentation, they mostly think that a Nintendo Switch Pro is gonna get announced. Do I think it will happen? I'm gonna say no. The reason why I say that is because there's one thing that I actually didn't spot when Nintendo first announced that they'll be having a presentation this month. Now, we can go back to this tweet right here. It does say right here that tune in for a Nintendo Direct with roughly 40 minutes of info exclusively on Nintendo Switch software, mostly releasing in 2021. And what I just read, it states right here, Nintendo Switch software, not hardware, because if it was Nintendo Switch software and hardware, then that would likely mean the Nintendo Switch Pro, it would be shown at E3. It's only going to be showing Nintendo Switch software, meaning games. So that really makes me think that it's unlikely for the Switch Pro to ever get announced. Though I did raise some more points when it comes to Emily Rogers saying that there will be a Nintendo Switch reveal a week before E3. Now, I would think that would be likely, but then again, in my opinion, I just find it a bit unlikely at this point, and they're only going to be showing at least a Nintendo Switch software, which mostly focuses on games and not the console itself. And keep in mind, these whole rumors and leaks has been going on since 2019, and this was like after the Switch Lite was released, and that was like, I forgot when the Switch Lite came out. I think it was either July through September, but I can't really recall. But all I can say is that this has been rumors and leaks going on regarding the Switch Pro since 2019, so it's been going on for a very long time. So, we got the whole E3 thing out of the way, but what about this other question? Like I said, I've had one question in my mind, is that, will the Nintendo Switch Pro ever get announced at E3, or as a whole itself? And the reason why I say that is because if fans didn't see the Nintendo Switch Pro get announced at E3 this year, then they would really be disappointed. And, I would not be disappointed, I would just not be surprised if they didn't show it. And the thing is that if they ever announce it at some point, it's really uncertain. Like I said, these rumors has been going on since 2019, and it has been pretty, in my opinion, I guess it's just kind of getting a bit too much at the moment. I mean, as much as I love to see Nintendo announcing a somewhat updated console, I just had one question in mind, is that why exactly would you buy a Switch console that pretty much only has a few big upgrades, but when you have a regular Switch? Now, this is just how I feel. I'm not trying to attack anyone who really wants a Switch Pro. I'm just saying is that if I want to buy a Switch Pro, I would prefer just to play with my regular Switch as well. I mean, sure, there will be, like, at least a few exclusive games, such as maybe, like, Pokemon Legends Arceus and maybe Breath of the Wild 2, since I've been seeing a few speculations and predictions saying that Breath of the Wild sequel could possibly be one of the Switch Pro exclusives, or they could be in both consoles. I mean, think of the new Nintendo 3DS that came out, like, a while back. Like, they only had a few, like, exclusive games such as Minecraft, Xenoblade Chronicles, and I think Fire Emblem Warriors and all. And I do think there will be at least, I don't know, like 4, maybe 6 exclusive games for the Nintendo Switch Pro, which, I mean, to be honest, it's only going to be supporting every other game that has came out for the Switch as well. Like, I mean, you can play Breath of the Wild. I mean, you can play the first Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey and all, and there's really not going to be any difference aside from 4K Ultra HD resolution, and that's just about it, and maybe a few chips and all, but this is just how I feel, right? I'm not trying to say anything. I just personally would prefer a regular Switch instead, since I do have a regular Switch as well. I don't think I just want to buy another Switch that pretty much only has a few big updates and all. And so, will it ever get revealed, though? That's just something that I think maybe yes and no. If they're not going to be showing the Switch Pro at all, then that's it. They're not going to show it at all. But if they do, then at least they might, I don't know, from according to Emily Rogers and Bloomberg's reports, most people think that it's going to be revealed at least either this week or somewhere between it. But in my opinion, I think they might save it, I think, after E3, meaning, like, I guess a couple months after that. And that's just about it. And this is just the entire discussion I really want to talk about. I'm just saying, alright? I'm not trying to, I guess you can say, I'm not trying to say that the Switch Pro isn't really worth the reveal. It's just from what I can see recently and what I've had in my mind for at least a couple of days, I just think that the Switch Pro would at least be shown off at least a few months, and I have a mix between yes and no when it comes to it. It would not be shown at E3. I mean, that's really obvious from the announcement and the description, but if it was revealed at least somewhat a couple months later, then that will be something. But with all that out of the way, this is just my entire discussion video, and I know my point seems a bit somewhat, like, illogical, or that's how I describe it, but like I said in the beginning, these are all my opinions, thoughts, and this is just how I feel when it comes to the Switch Pro. But I want to know your opinions down below of what you think about the Switch Pro. Do you ever think that the console is ever going to get announced at least sometimes this year? I mean, this whole thing has been going on since 2019, and I just want all the rumors to stop, and at least Nintendo to show it off at this point. But we all have to stay, keep in mind that we all have to respect our opinions. This is just how I feel about it, and I just want to know all your opinions down below. And so with that, leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell for more videos, follow my Twitter, and I'll see you guys next time. And remember this, once a legend, always a legend. Like a Hellcat.